Hi, I'm EAC Commissioner Ben Hovland. Each year, the EAC holds the National Clearinghouse Awards, also known as the Clearie Awards, to recognize best practices in election administration. My fellow EAC commissioners and I are interviewing some of the 2020 Clearie winners to further highlight best practices and get a better understanding of the technology, initiatives, and hard work that won Clearie Awards. Today, I'm happy to speak with Amy Kelly, who is the Cyber Navigator Program Manager for the Illinois State Board of Elections. The Illinois State Board of Elections won a 2020 Clearie for outstanding innovation in cybersecurity and technology for their Cyber Navigator program. Congratulations, Ms. Kelly, and thank you for speaking with me today. To kick us off here, I just hope that you could give us a brief overview of the Cyber Navigator program.
Hi, thank you for having us. We are very honored to be the recipient of the 2020 Clearie Awards, and thank you for inviting us today to speak on this important topic. I'm very excited to discuss our program, share our ideas. The inception of the Cyber Navigator program came about after the well-known and documented and reported 2016 breach of our voter registration database here at the Illinois State Board of Elections. So in response to that, our General Assembly knew that we needed to really create some type of program that not only bolstered our cybersecurity posture here at the State Board of Elections, but also create a program that helped do the same thing for our 108 local election officials. So in 2018, that law was passed, and from that inception where it said we have to create a program that helps our local officials to defend, detect, and respond to cyber incidents, we really had no playbook to start with. As you can imagine, being the State Board of Elections and not having anyone really an expert in cyber, we started to brainstorm about how we could create this program. So around those discussions and the need to have a program that supported our local jurisdictions of all sizes and create a program that was really beneficial to all, we really started to dig in and have robust conversations with other state agencies that we typically wouldn't have partnered with to start the implementation and creation of this program. So that's kind of the backstory. Again, with small, resources, only a couple people at the state board that were kind of focused in on this, we knew we had to reach out and ask for assistance in those areas where we didn't have anyone in that expert level.
Great, and can you tell me a little bit more about the details on how the program works? It's my understanding that that you've split the state into regions, and there are navigators assigned to each region. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and what their duties look like?
Absolutely. So when we started having those discussions and we partnered with the Department of Innovation and Technology, it was decided that we would section the state off and use the same zones that the Illinois Association of County Clerk and Recorders use to kind of get together in groups and meet and discuss things that are important to them in their regions. So we used that map and we said, we really need some individuals that are more not, centrally located in those zones, that if there is an incident, they could get there in a timely manner. They could be that person that's embedded in those communities that could reach out and assist the local election authorities. We have offices in Springfield and Chicago, but that's not really going to assist someone, at the southernmost point or the northernmost point of our state. So using that model, we placed 2 regional navigators in those 4 zones. We also have a lead navigator that's stationed in Springfield at the Department of Innovation and Technology. And then we hired 2 program analysts that are full-time. One is stationed at our Fusion Center. So that is where we have all our incident reporting flow through our Fusion Center. So that's the one-stop shop. Everyone in the state in an election office knows if they have a cyber incident, if they have anything from phishing email to malware to anything, we want it all reported to our STIC. And that election-specific analyst then sits there and works with our other partners in different sectors to share information about cyber-related incidents. And then we push that back out through our information sharing program at the Fusion Center to all our vetted partners. And then I am here, the program manager at the state board. So, that's how we kind of, divided the state up so that we could really get into those offices, talk to them about what they needed and how we could build this program to really be beneficial to all of them and still create a community where we can communicate, share information, and do that in a timely manner.
That's great. And I think that, when we look at the issue of cybersecurity in elections, I think one of the big challenges you look at is how you take on sort of the decentralized nature of elections, the resource challenges that all jurisdictions face. And I think that, you've really come up with a solution here. You hit on this a little bit in sort of the origins of the program, but for anyone who's watching this and thinking about setting this up in their own state, can you talk about any challenges that you faced in developing and implementing the program or recommendations that, might save others a little bit of time?
Sure. So if I had to outline the biggest challenges for us, there's four. The top four would be the timeline for us. This law wasn't signed into effect until 2018, mid-2018. It was June of 2018. And we knew we had to make huge strides and improvements at the local level in such a short time frame. So, you're really looking at our target goal here was obviously the presidential election, do what we could before November of 2020. So we had to kind of hone in and figure out what was most important to us, and setting up that timeline to get in the navigators hired. I mean, we're talking about starting from nothing to getting those individuals in place, getting the jurisdictions to buy in, because as you mentioned, we are decentralized. We are a bottom-up state. So all of our 108 local election officials, have their own systems. They pick their own vendors. They have their own IT infrastructure already in place. So getting those individuals on board with what we were trying to accomplish, and even just an introduction into, our main goals and objectives. And then getting those resources together from a statewide standpoint of what other agencies could we call on to build a partnership with, so that we could effectively, teach them, because most of them don't know anything about elections either. So we're teaching each other in our respective fields. And then once all of that was created, then really getting out there and providing a program that was beneficial to everyone. We have one of the largest election jurisdictions in the country with Cook County in Chicago, to a county that has less than 3,000. So how do we build this program to make it equally beneficial to all of those jurisdictions? So those were some of the challenges that we faced. And, this isn't, this is a continued effort. We accomplished a lot in a short amount of time, but we still have a lot to accomplish. So I think if anyone's looking at it from a standpoint of starting a program, I think, just start and really dig into what you want to accomplish, and then set a timeline for those goals and try to, accomplish them, because you have to start somewhere.
You mentioned the importance or the need to get buy-in from your local election officials. Now that I know it's still a new program, but now that you've got a couple of years under your belt, can you talk about some feedback that you've received from the locals, or how how the program's been going over?
So initially, what we decided to do was we held some public hearings and let the election officials in the state speak to us directly about what their concerns were surrounding the program. A lot of them wanted to, make sure that we were a resource and to still maintain their independence and have control over their systems. And I think it was vital that we reiterated to them that that was not our goal. Our goal in this was to provide resources to them for any type of cyber incident so that we could better prepare them, because I think we all understand now that it's not a matter of, when or it is going to happen to someone. And we wanted to take that stigma away and make it just a procedural thing that we offer, a resource that we can give, guidance in situations where, we as the State Board of Elections found ourselves needing assistance from outside agencies during our breach. So really taking that stigma away of saying, there's nothing to hide, to be ashamed of, we're here to help. And so when we did that and we started soliciting feedback, we listened and we said, we as the State Board of Elections don't want to oversee your infrastructure. We don't have the capability to do so. But what we do want to do is we want to be there as a resource to guide you, put you in contact with, federal resources that could be there in situations that are above our state resources. And we want to help you. We want to train, offer trainings. We want to, we sent surveys asking for feedback on what types of training would you prefer? Would you participate at a state level? Can we come in and help you set these trainings at a local level? So we really told them each time that we were in, whether it was a zone meeting or a statewide meeting, that if you don't tell us what you need, we can't build this program to help you. And going in with that kind of attitude of we want to make this beneficial for you really did open the lines of communication, and we got a lot of positive feedback and constructive criticism that we used as we were building up to 2020.
That's great. And I assume that this is here to stay, or something that you all are going to continue with for a while. But can you talk about maybe any ways, again, sort of lessons learned, any ways that either you see the program changing in Illinois, again, now that you have a major general election that you've experienced, and then again, sort of, or back to the idea of maybe recommendations for other states that are looking to implement this, again, from your experience now having set this up, things that you would keep in mind.
So yeah, we absolutely do plan to continue to mature our program here in Illinois. We have set goals for 2022 and 2024. Part of our infrastructure plan was to move all of the connections that we have to our statewide database to a secure elections network, which is similar to what law enforcement use. That's kind of one of the things that was going on behind the scene that doesn't get talked about a lot because it's not as fun. But we did do that. So that's a big infrastructure change we're working on. That was completed before the general, but we're working on expanding that in ways to give more bandwidth and more support. We do plan to offer more trainings, obviously with a big emphasis on mis and disinformation. We're putting together some communication plans, offering some social media trainings. We also plan to, similar to what I believe the state of Wisconsin has done, was putting together a training resource in a box, a TTX in a box. Since we held those tabletop trainings at a statewide level with our locals, we really want them now to hold their own trainings locally, get their local emergency managers in the room. We're focusing in on continuity of operation plans. We're focusing on continued risk assessments. We've done overall the state, we've done one, presented results. We're gonna go back in, do follow-ups so that we can work on mitigating some of those risks that are still lingering. We wanna talk more about physical security. We did do a little bit of that before 2020, but we really wanna get in there and do some more robust assessments on physical security. We're providing endpoint protection to our local election officials now, 24-hour reporting through our Fusion Center. And then we're going to work on more of our incident response team. We don't currently have a designated team. So I think we're gonna focus in on trying to get a designated team to respond. We do have the navigators, but in the event we need a more robust plan. We have partnered with our National Guard. They've assisted us on election day, incident if we need them. So we'll work with them to continue to build out more detailed plans. as we move and mature this program. But those are some of the things that we did in 2020 in that short time frame. And now that we have some established procedures and policies in place that we've practiced, we now want to really establish and get into the weeds on some of those and develop a more mature program.
That's great. And just as I guess, we've hit on a lot of pieces of this program and the way it's worked, but is there anything that stands out as either things you'd want to hit that are either major takeaways that we haven't touched on yet, or just really anything that we've missed so far?
Well, I think I missed on advice in the last question. So I would say anybody that's looking at starting a program similar to this, my number one piece of advice would be to remember that even small changes have a huge impact. If you're talking about jurisdictions that have never had just basic cybersecurity training, that makes a big difference in security awareness. If you don't have the funding to do any type of infrastructure changes, the training is huge. Just making people aware, best practices, sharing those guides. And we teased our jurisdictions over the last couple of years that they were going to be sick of hearing from us, but it became a very open line of communication because we do election briefings each week with open source information on cyber threats. We do newsletters bi-monthly that we would highlight a navigator so that the individuals that don't normally interact with the navigator out of a different region could possibly, if someone was filling in, at least have that familiar face that they would understand. And use your resources that you have available locally. That's where we started. We knew we had to ask for some help because we needed help from our partners at Department of Innovation and Technology, State Police, Emergency Management, our National Guard. So if you haven't had those conversations and you're looking to start a program like that, just sit down with them and start, sharing ideas, sharing common goals, because everyone wants to improve the security around our democratic processes. It should be a common goal in every state, and I believe that it is. So if you open those lines of communication and just start talking about what you want to accomplish, I think you'll realize even the smallest change will have a big impact in your state. And as far as our overall success, what we learned from this program too, since we had opened those lines of communication, we could have never imagined what 2020 would bring, even with the pandemic. So because we had this program in place, those resources, our partnerships already made, things like getting hand sanitizer and PPE to our election officials, we already had opened that lines of communication with our emergency management department, and they were happy to help and assist in those things. So for us, the overall success of opening lines of communication, building partnerships with agencies that we wouldn't have normally interacted with, really was kind of a byproduct of the program that was hugely beneficial when it came to dealing with the election during the pandemic, and then the security threats on top of that. So our navigators being embedded in the community too was another big success. We weren't sure how that was going to work, but having those individuals who work in the communities, live in the communities, and our election officials might run into them in their daily interactions, and having someone that's available to come by on a monthly basis and check in, follow up with incidents or security threats has proven to be one of the most successful parts of this program.
Well, that's really great. And so I thank you for sharing those tips and this information about your Cyber Navigator program. So to close out, I'd just like to say thank you again, Amy Kelly, for joining us, and the Illinois State Board of Elections. Congratulations on your Clearie and great job.
Thank you. Thank you for having us and for recognizing this program. We really appreciate it. And we're happy to share because that's what it's all about, right? Sharing information and making everyone better. So thank you. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.